Alright, so I just watched Angel Hair for the second time, but I want to actually go on ahead and get a recording, get this on tape for my first reaction to this. I made this recording for myself on my phone because I didn't have my computer at the time. So this is what I thought when I finished Angel Hair yesterday at I think it was 11.
So, Angel Hair. Immediately I think it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I think it's good, but I think the third season was pretty lackluster though. It wasn't as good as the last one. I don't think it's bad at all, but I don't think it's as good or interesting as the previous ones, just because of how much we learn, and also because of how much we don't learn. First to good, I think that the personalized aspect of it, of us asking what's up with Gabby, what happened? What the heck happened in Jonah's childhood? And how did he forget about everything that happened, right? It made us wonder those questions. And it made us wonder those things, and then he finally tried to talk to her again, and it worked, and he was talking to her for a few days. But then she disappeared on Easter. Now the whole thing is, it's a Christian, it's like a Christian show, right? So, and it uses Bible verses, and it's an angel, and they tell us about how demons and angels work. But that seemingly, I'm not going to get into my criticism yet, but I think the Christian aspect is a pretty unique thing, especially because it's not disrespectful or using obviously demonic imagery or anything like that. It's actually pretty nice a lot of the time. So season 1 doesn't end with us learning what Gabby is, but we learn more aspects about her and Jonah's relationship, and how weird it was that he's had these recordings of when he was reacting to her versus the tapes, which were not live. So after that, we basically learned that whenever he records or broadcasts her, he can speak to her, which is pretty interesting. Then season 2 happens. Like I said, we lose who she is, and then another guy comes in who just calls himself Zaggy. His name is Zagatheria or something. He has a very different name. He has a very unique name, so it's hard to remember, but I'm just gonna call him Zag. So Zag comes in after Angel Hair is displaced and gone. So when Zag comes in, it's who the hell actually is this guy? And then he doesn't trust Jonah, who's the main character, because he's I don't know who the hell you are. I'm trying to find Zag. And then he tells him to go find, because Gabby's missing. And so what happens after that is that Jonah gets told by Zag to go do something, and he goes, by the way, basically all the Christianized elements are gone by now. We're not really, that kind of goes nowhere. But by now, he finds this thing called Wild Hair, which is where Zag originates from. And from there, we start learning that all of these shows are connected because the same people who made them. Wild Hair translates to Zag. Angel Hair translates to Gabby, who is his friend, who he knows from childhood, right? And she wants to. And then by the end, we learn that she's been having difficulty talking to him because of the internet, because she's being broadcasted now by millions of screens. That it's difficult for her to specifically talk to him now. So Gabby has always been there, but it seemed like she was gone because she was displaced in so many different places. That's an interesting concept. Zaggy wanted to find her because in his show Wild Hair, she was missing too, or she went missing. And again, that's when we learned that she was. And then season 3 has a guy named Segan. In the first episode, Segan is very against Jonah. We don't know exactly why, but we do know that Jonah made some kind of alibi in the past for a friend's house. That's what she was referring to. And then they play a game, and the game is also live, and the game is another angel called Camriel. We've got no messages of who Camriel is before this or anything like that, but they just want to also help their other friend, Camriel. And this is when it starts falling off to me, because we don't know who Camriel is. We were invested in Gabby because of the mystery of who she was. I'm not saying that Zag or Gabby or Francis or any of those guys are bad characters. What I am saying is that this show's mostly interesting, or most of the show's interesting qualities came from the mysterious nature of it all. Like, what is Gabby? I thought Gabby was like a demon or angel, but that ends up not really being that important. Like, I thought that Zaggy would be some kind of demonic force trying to replace, or some kind of threat, right, to Jonah or this world or all of that. But then it ends up being this, which is cool, but it's not. It kind of introduces these new things when we've already had mysteries that we could have expanded on previously. And then the game being Camriel, we don't know Camriel, and we're like, Camriel, you always are so defensive, and you always try to, like, it's like, okay, you know, this really does feel like Godzilla NES. I really want to make a video called Angel Hair and Personalization. Angel Hair, Hope, and Personalization of Media, or something like that. That could be so fire, because this is actually a good series. I just have personal critiques of it. It reminds me a lot of Godzilla NES, because in Godzilla NES, it's similarly personalized. The guy playing it played the game as a kid, but then he got a strange, evil version of it, right? And this evil version has this being called Red, which basically is tormenting the soul of his middle school girlfriend. So this is some real childhood shit, where when she died, it was Red. And then her soul got trapped in the game, and Red is altering the game, trying to horrify him. And the game is personalized around what he finds disturbing. Very, very, very interesting. It's a very interesting concept, but it reminds me of that because the ending of that is also extremely positive and happy, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't really feel like that much of a horror story. It has creepy elements, kind of like Angel Hair, where it had some creepy moments, but other than that, it's not really a horror story. But Angel Hair has different issues. Like, for example, it introduces some things that go nowhere, like the Ouroboros, for example. That goes nowhere. That's pagan imagery, so I thought it'd relate to Christianity and be like, okay, this is clearly some kind of evil. There's clearly some kind of evil force or something in this, right? But that's not the case. We kind of dropped the Christianity stuff after a little while. That just happens to be the kind of show it is. It's just a Christian product for Christian kids. That's just what it is. And also little comments like when Francis said with Demons Trilliard, he said, not all demons are bunnies with horns. Some of them are temptations or thoughts, which is true. And that's actually a true thing. That's mostly what demons are. Man, it kind of doesn't really do anything with that.
But that's half of my immediate thoughts. Generally, I repeat myself quite a few times in it, which is normal because, like, you know, it's not scripted. I wasn't planning out everything that I would say, but generally, I actually have more criticisms for it after rewatching this more analytically. I'd say I still think it's good in some ways, but I don't think it's as good as I initially thought it was. Mostly because I now find the issue of it using this Christian backdrop, I find that to be a bigger issue because it's such a big part of how it starts. It's like when Angel Hair was new, it was like a Christian show. Like, people saw it as like a Christian analog horror thing. When it's not a horror, by the way, it's more of a mystery. But that's how they saw it because that's how it started. And you would think that those Christian elements, like the Proverbs or the Revelation 20, for example, where Gabby is genuinely creepy and she's like, you know, the Bible tells us of a place for liars, which is crazy. That's so wild. In the context of Francis just stealing her feather, like, that felt dark and wrong. But we don't really get anything from that. And again, the Ouroboros, that goes nowhere. And I think that the only way you could really, like, push that into meaning something is if you go into theories or something. Like, you got to go into a theory about the Ouroboros. It doesn't make any sense though. And theologically, it's even confusing. I thought about this way more on the second watch because I was thinking of aspects of angels, and while I was watching the show, I was looking up different stuff about angels and guardian angels. So I was thinking, okay, maybe Gabby is his guardian angel, but then I was thinking about it more, and it can't be that case because Gabby is personally trying to protect all kinds of kids. So it's not just her trying to help Jonah. She's not his guardian angel or anything. And this is like an idea of that idea of Catholicism put into this. She's trying to help all kinds of kids. So it's like, Okay, I guess. And she's also named after Gabriel. That's not Gabriel's thing, but at least she's named after an actual angel, right? But the thing is, Zagzagel and Camiel are not real angels. I looked it up. They say they have, like, if you look up Zagzagel angel and Camiel angel, it'll say Camiel is basically like the angel of war, and Zagzagel is the angel of wisdom. And that was the angel that appeared to Moses as a burning bush. And it's like, no, this is all cat. The Bible only says of 3 angels. And since you're not supposed to name angels, and usually when angels in the Bible appear, they're not named, or they reject to name themselves, and you're also not supposed to name your guardian angel, I was assuming, okay, this is obviously a hint for those who are Catholic, or those who know at least a bit about Christianity or theology, or this theology. But the fact of the matter is that that's not at all what it is, because this doesn't go anywhere. Zagzagel being named Zagzagel and not being a real angel within Christian theology doesn't go anywhere. Same as Camiel not being a real angel. It does, and they also each of them have partners. Like Zagzagel was saying, like, where's Camiel's friend? He doesn't have one. He said that Francois left. And the Hyrax thing, the Hyrax questioning tape thing, obviously implied that something bad happened between him and his friend, because he was like, maybe it's sometimes better to permanently split. That's what he was saying, and he was saying it really tense, like he was angry about something. So obviously that communicates that something happened between him and his friend. We don't really get anything about that. And also, angels don't have little friends that like important angels. Let's just say Zagzagel, and I'm just saying this is theoretical. We're not gonna get into Bible fan fiction, right? But let's just say theoretically, Zagzagel and Camiel are angels that are named in the Bible. They wouldn't even have any friends. Saint Michael doesn't have a little friend, so what the hell, Gabriel and Raphael don't have little friends. This is not at all part of any kind of Christianity I can think of. That's why, and I'm only taking such an analytical, nerdy kind of look at this because it's an analog horror, or it's an analog mystery. So, and there are a lot of little subtle details, and it also references things that are specific to Christian theology. Like I said in my first thing, when it was like the nature of how demons work. That's specifically Christian theology. We believe that. We think that's true. That's specific to Christian theology. If you're not a Christian, you probably have not even heard of that, or that explanation of how demons work, because that's how they work.
But just know that demon hairs don't always appear as plainly as a rabbit with horns. Sometimes they look like an opportunity or a feeling.
So I was like, okay, it's clearly using details from Christianity. It's literally quoting Bible verses in this Christian show. So I thought Christianity would have a larger impact on this, but it just doesn't. In case you're thinking maybe it's Jewish, it cannot be Jewish because Ephesians is mentioned in here. Ephesians is literally mentioned in here. The Jews reject the New Testament. That's their whole thing. They don't think any of that is real. They don't think that what happened. They don't think that Christ was actually Messiah. So they reject the New Testament. They just use the Old Testament. They use the Tanakh and stuff. So in that way, it can't be Jewish. Now I'm left. So if it doesn't, then that means a few things. That means, one, this is like a different version of Christianity in the show, where Zagzagel and Camiel are real angels, and angels have little helpers, but that's never answered for. That's just a mystery. 2, the author got Christianity confused, but I don't believe that. I don't know if that's true, so I don't want to say that, right? That they just misunderstood Christianity, like I did with that Vivzy Pop video I did a while ago on Hell of a Boss, and how its theology is confusion, and how forgiveness works is confusion. That didn't make any sense. But I don't want to go that route with this one, because I don't think that's 100% true. Or 3, this is just, so I said a different version of Christianity. Maybe they got confused. I'm getting a headache just thinking about this right now. Oh my gosh. If I'm talking, maybe it's just because I'm talking too fast and thinking too much, and I just watched this whole show again. And my critiques are pretty complicated, and they're all theological. Or maybe it's not Christian at all. It wasn't actually meant to be. Maybe that's not the intent at all. It wasn't supposed to be Christian. It just happened to be a Christian show. But then like, why are there nods directly to how we believe demons work, and nods to Christian theology and stuff that not every person would know? Everything actually indirectly points to them being demons. Angels do not reveal their names. They just don't do that. They don't do it. Why? Not sure, but they just don't. They don't do that. A demon probably would do that, right? To try and trick you into thinking that it's trustworthy. It's like, oh, I'm the angel centurion or some stupid like that. I don't know. I just made that up. I don't know if that's like an actual bootleg angel, but yeah, you know, the only way to find other angel names is by going outside of the Bible, and that's when you get into questionable territory, right? And the church it strictly sticks with, if we're naming angels, Saint Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. So yeah, I'm really confused by the theology of this whole thing, because it feels like it's a rootist Christian, but it doesn't actually do it that much, just because of the strict, clear understandings of how like demons work and other stuff like that. And it gives us a lot of little hints. I'm definitely gonna be like watching this a third time in a little while and start writing down all the little hints and everything. But generally, I think Angel Hair, I don't think it's bad or anything. I just think that it's I think the characters are really good. Like that part where Francis is talking about where Francis is clearly talking about himself and his relationship with the Fran that we don't know of. Like, we don't see Camao's Fran, where the question was about Jonah, but he's really talking about himself. That was really good. That felt really realistic. I think the dialogue is also really good. You know, the angels, they never have a moment of explaining something they'd obviously know. Like when Zaxagel says, "Where's Camao's Fran? Where did he go?" You know, and the other Frans just know about Frans, but we don't, because we're not them. They have this knowledge of what they are, and they don't just sit down and explain it and talk about it in detail together, because they already know it. That's smart. That's how actual people talk. Actual people wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, you know, Johnny is 24 years old and he drives a red Porsche." They wouldn't be saying stuff like that. They'd just be like, "Johnny went out in his car and is coming back in like 3 hours." It's like normal people would just talk like that, right? But nah, my head hurts. It's really hard to talk about this right now, I'm not gonna lie. Don't be fooled by how short this one is, because my head is killing me right now. Holy crap. Angel Hair is certainly next, and then next I'll do Starters. That was a great suggestion by someone that I don't remember the name of, but yeah, that's Starters is next. Now you know. So see you guys later. Hope you like my Angel Hair video, and I still want to compare it to NES Godzilla, but my criticisms are kind of complicated, so I'm not exactly sure if like they're complicated and they might be long, so I'm not sure if I'll have room to talk about NES Godzilla in the video, or how I could naturally do that. But I'll see if you'll see if that's gonna be a thing that I do. See you guys later.